Philippe Coutinho. Philippe Coutinho arrived at Barcelona in January 2018, carrying the heavy weight of expectation. Neymar's departure had still left the club reeling, so Coutinho became the hope for a solution. Fresh off a great spell at Liverpool, where he wowed supporters with long-range goals and deft dribbles, Coutinho seemed like the ideal fit to carry on Barcelona's Brazilian legacy. His €135 million price tag, plus add-ons, simply served to emphasize that this was not your typical signing. A fresh hero was expected at Camp Nou. The narrative did not turn out as intended, though. Coutinho never really settled into a position and struggled in Barcelona's convoluted system. Neymar had shone on the left wing or in midfield where Iniesta had pulled the strings, but Coutinho hardly found his rhythm. Every touch seemed weighty, every choice less sure-footed. Injuries arrived and sapped his confidence bit by bit. Early promise became unrelenting pressure as the whistles from the Camp Nou crowd grew louder. The loan Coutinho took to Bayern Munich in 2019 was both a turn of fate and an escape. He occasionally displayed flashes of his former form, but he never truly reached his Liverpool heights. In a moment of cruel irony, he scored twice against Barcelona in the infamous 8-2 Champions League game, a painful reminder for his parent club. When he returned to Spain, he was no longer a record signing. He was a symbol of lost chances, walking between the bench and the treatment room. Barcelona's attempts to move him on only heightened his disappointment. Every transfer rumor became a mirror reflecting a project gone off course. Coutinho's stay at Barcelona tells more than just the story of one player failing to live up to expectations. It reminds us that even the most gifted athletes need the right environment to flourish. Talent needs nurturing. Coutinho needed more than just a jersey and a large payment. He required a team with a well-defined agenda. Ultimately, he came to represent a dream that never fully blossomed, rather than magic. Ángel Di María. Ángel Di Maria's transfer to Manchester United in 2014, breaking the British transfer record, felt like the start of a new chapter. Di Maria promised to provide a team searching for its identity with flair and inventiveness, arriving with his Champions League medal and brilliant World Cup behind him. At first, he delivered, particularly that unforgettable chip against Leicester City, a moment of pure class that suggested excellence. His speed and trickery delighted supporters, but that promise soon faded. He was shaken by a break-in at his house, and on the pitch, injuries and Louis van Gaal's strict approach hampered his natural ability. Every week seemed to sap his confidence. By season's end, Di Maria resembled a man lost. His relationship with Van Gaal broke down, and his obvious desire to leave was clear-cut. He was sold to Paris Saint-Germain after just one season, leaving behind hardly more than memories of what might have been. His stay at Old Trafford served as a reminder that even world-class athletes can suffer in the wrong surroundings. Di Maria was a lesson in how brittle potential can be without the appropriate support, not merely a transfer mistake. Antoine Griezmann. Antoine Griezmann's pursuit by Barcelona was anything but simple. Following his well-publicized rejection via documentary in 2018, the Catalans returned a year later with fresh resolve, activating his €120 million release clause from Atletico Madrid. The move was supposed to lighten Lionel Messi's load and provide fresh firepower for an attack in need of a spark. On paper, Griezmann's adaptability and relentless work ethic appeared to fit perfectly with Barca's high-pressing approach. On the field, though, he struggled to find his place. Griezmann drifted wide, cut off from the flow, his preferred role colliding with Messi's dominance in the same areas. He ran constantly, but he felt more like an expensive extra than a game-changer. His confidence faded along with the club's ambitions. Expecting a superstar to illuminate the Camp Nou, fans saw only a shadow of the player who had excelled in Madrid. Rumors of conflict with Messi persisted off the field, while his hefty salary only worsened Barcelona's financial problems. There were sporadic flashes of genius, but never enough to justify the price tag. A loan return to Atletico eventually felt more like a quiet retreat than a triumphant encore. Griezmann's stay in Barcelona became a lesson in caution. Without the correct system, plan, and support, even outstanding talent can seem lost. The dream move became for Griezmann a reminder that success cannot be guaranteed by star power alone. Paul Pogba's 2016 return to Manchester United, breaking the world transfer record, felt like the dawn of a new dynasty. Rising in Italy, the midfielder had developed power and grace, combined with an eye for the spectacular. He was meant to be the beating core of a rebuilt United. However, the weight of that £89 million fee seemed to follow him like a shadow from his first steps on the Old Trafford grass. Pogba's stay at United turned into a cycle of spectacular moments, interspersed with periods of anonymity. One week, he would strike a thunderous long-range shot or split a defense with a pass few could see. The next, he would drift through games unable to assert himself. Managers arrived and left, Mourinho, Solskjaer, Rangnick, but none seemed to find a mechanism allowing Pogba to reach his greatest potential. Injuries added to the frustration, depriving United of his presence in pivotal moments. Off the field, Pogba's larger-than-life persona, social media, haircuts, brand deals, often eclipsed his contributions, making him a target for fans yearning for consistency. By the end of his contract, he departed on a free to Juventus, the team he had left to pursue excellence. Pogba's second stint at Manchester United became a lesson in caution. Even world-class talent cannot flourish without the appropriate surroundings, support, and strategy. The prodigal son came back, but the fairy tale never truly started. Once a star midfielder, he's now preparing for a return to football, but whether he can ever be that same kid from Juventus again, that remains uncertain. Mario Balotelli. Mario Balotelli's arrival at Liverpool in the summer of 2014 felt both exciting and dangerous. Given his flashes of genius at AC Milan and Manchester City, a player capable of the remarkable on his day, the Italian forward seemed like a bargain at just £16 million. Liverpool needed goals, magic, and a spark after just losing Luis Suarez. At least on paper, Balotelli promised all of that, but Balotelli was obviously never going to be the solution from the start. Brendan Rodgers' team excelled through constant pressing and movement. Balotelli's game just didn't match. Often drifting far, he waited for the ball rather than chasing it, and his off-the-cuff approach ran counter to a system based on organization and teamwork. That season, his only goal in the Premier League came against Tottenham, a poor return for a man hired to find the net. Away from the field, Balotelli's controversial reputation eclipsed any hint of promise. Rumor had it that he had training ground spats, social media antics, and tabloid headlines trailing him like a shadow. Suarez had also been erratic, but he delivered genius amid the anarchy. Sadly, Balotelli gave not much of either. The writing was on the wall by the time he returned to Milan on loan after only one season. His Anfield chapter closed as fast as it began, serving as a reminder that regardless of brilliance, raw ability requires the correct setting to truly shine. We always remember him for his shirtless goal celebrations or his clashes with coaches, but for some, he takes his place in history as a transfer that failed to live up to expectations. João Félix. João Félix's 2019 record-breaking €126 million transfer to Atletico Madrid felt like the beginning of a new era. Drawing comparisons to legends like Kaká and even Cristiano Ronaldo, the Portuguese prodigy had electrified Benfica with his technical excellence, brilliant footwork, and goal-scoring ability. At Atletico, he was supposed to be the heir to Antoine Griezmann, a player who might give Diego Simeone's battle-hardened squad creative vitality. But Felix's path proved far more complicated than anyone had expected from his first steps at the Wanda Metropolitano. Simeone's system insisted on strict discipline, relentless defensive effort, and a sacrifice of personal expression in favor of group structure. The very traits that had made Felix so appealing at Benfica, his freedom, his improvisation, seemed at odds with the rigors of his new position. His flashes of genius, a gentle dribble here, a deft pass there, often flickered briefly before the system smothered them. Added to his challenges were injuries and inconsistency, which made building momentum difficult. His young shoulders were already bearing more weight from his record fee and constant media and fan criticism. Felix never quite fit Atletico's red and white, despite his obvious ability. His loan to Chelsea in 2023 was both an admission that the project had failed and an opportunity for Felix to rediscover his spark somewhere else. At the end, even though he's still trying to hold on somewhere, his inability to fulfill his expected potential continues to linger as a disappointment for many. Do you think João Félix will ever live up to the hype and make the breakthrough people expect from him? Eden Hazard. Eden Hazard's signing for Real Madrid in 2019 sparked supporters' hopes for a fresh Bernabeu hero. At Chelsea, the Belgian winger had lit up the Premier League, gliding past opponents with ease and delivering decisive moments when it counted most. With a price tag of almost €100 million plus bonuses, he was meant to inherit the legacy of Cristiano Ronaldo, a new Galactico ready to dazzle. But disaster followed his every step from the beginning. Before he could settle in, a preseason ankle injury stole his rhythm. Every time he discovered a spark, an elegant turn, a slaloming run, another setback would stop his momentum. Hazard never seemed to truly click inside Madrid's system, even when fit. Often looking hesitant, the confident, fearless Chelsea dribbler had magic flickering instead of blazing. Famously merciless, the Spanish press whirled like hawks. Every heavy touch, every missed sprint, every sign of tiredness was examined, questioned, and emphasized. His level of fitness was always a mystery, and the fans' tolerance grew thin as the seasons passed without the desired transforming effect. Hazard's stay in Madrid became a story of what might have been, despite infrequent flashes of genius. Eventually, he became a symbol of Real Madrid's struggle to replace Ronaldo, a reminder that even the most gifted players can fail when fate, fitness, and the footballing gods refuse to align. Hazard arrived with great promise, but leaves a sobering lesson about how even Galacticos might fade. Neymar's explosive move to Al Hilal in 2023 shocked the football world. Following great performances at Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain, the Brazilian player made an unannounced plunge into the Saudi Premier League. Driven by a record-breaking financial package, the deal represented the region's rising global football presence. For Neymar, it was supposed to be a fresh adventure, an opportunity to share his flair with an entirely new audience. Still, expectations followed him like a shadow from the moment he arrived. Fans, analysts, and club officials all hoped he would quickly improve the caliber and international profile of the league. Once his worst enemy, injuries returned and limited his influence, undermining the early buzz. On the field, the brilliant dribbler who had tormented Europe's finest seemed out of sync, as if the rhythm that had defined him had vanished in translation. Off the field, the scrutiny was unrelenting. Every action, on social media, in training, in public, was analyzed, sometimes negating his efforts to fit in. At times, Al Hilal's ambition to use him as a marketing icon ran counter to Neymar's own need for consistency, time, and trust. What was meant to be a new chapter in his shining career instead underlined the difficulties of adaptation in unfamiliar surroundings. Today, we explain the most disappointing transfers from past to present. Many of them were obviously heartbreaking, but the disappointment caused by Neymar, considered one of today's biggest stars, was especially disheartening. Now it's your turn. Who do you think was the biggest disappointment? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.